isn't going to do that because he doesn't want to know any facts about reality. He wants ways to keep pretending the Earth is flat, and that
I made the effort.
What you've just described might glean facts about reality. That's the reverse of what he wants.
I made the effort. I did not have a thought. I made the effort. I didn't have a thought experiment. No. I made the effort. I did not have a thought experiment. I did not look down a hallway of a high school. I got out there and worked at one scale in 147,000 feet all the way down to 5,000 feet with 1,600 feet of elevation change with proper geodetic survey equipment over many months. And he's just going to say, oh, but there's stuff you don't know. Well, make the effort. Get your own significant data set.
Oh, Larry. The game is to get you to make all the effort so he can then laugh at you for making all the effort.
And if you did do all that stuff, he would just come up with something else. He would just say, oh, well, there's this other thing that means you can't be sure. I mean, what he's describing is a situation where we could never make measurements of anything because we'd have to keep making continuous measurements in case some effect has changed the measurement in some way. I mean, it's absurd.
How would
you know? How would you be able to measure this then? The
way you would tell.
You don't have to do it. Just tell me the process that you would go through.
Yeah, the way you would tell if something's higher or lower.
Oh, so you're going to talk about building a fucking stupid structure, aren't you?
Well, how would you show that something's optically higher or lower than we're perceiving it? Other than
building the structure thing, that's how I would show that I was leader of a group of morons. Okay,
I would determine how.
That's the thing I would do to establish that truth. That I was a moron and I was supported by another group of morons.
No, you're just ad homing.
Well,
I would determine how optics work, and then
it's what that idiotic suggestion deserves. It's just another tactic. You know, no one's ever going to do it. You know, you're not going to do it, and you know, well, why?
It would end this whole debate.
No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. You just find some way to deny it. You'd say it hadn't been done properly, or it needed to be done in a vacuum, or it needed to be done on uninterrupted 4D video from 8 camera angles, or if it was done on 4D, from 8 camera angles, that would all be CGI. And there would just be make up some more bullshit because, as I pointed out, you have no interest at all in what's true in reality, only in trying to find ways of pretending the Earth is flat. And I don't think that's even that important to you. I think it's just finding ways of feeling like you're winning arguments on the internet. I think that's a shame.
I'm honestly not even interested in even debating with you guys anymore. It's so obnoxious that it's
because you know that your position is completely indefensible, and the only way you can defend it is to play these silly, intellectually dishonest games.
It's not a game. It's not a dishonest intellectual game.
Actually, Jeremy, you're wrong because when Larry was describing his setup, you took a shot at him and said, like, what was the temperature profile, pressure profile? Let me ask you something. If he had that information, what the hell were you ever going to do with that?
Exactly.
It still wouldn't prove. I just want to show that even with his own atmospheric model,
Jeremy,
even
what
with
would you
his
have
own
done with it?
I'm going to tell you, even with his own atmospheric model, he doesn't have the measurements required to show what's happening as he says what's happening.
How do you know? How do you, Jeremy, know that that's required?
Because I know about refraction. I got a refraction guy.
You got a refraction guy, but you know more about refraction?
I have multiple refraction guys, yes. Absolutely.
It seemed like you have a guy for every topic, but you know fuck all about any of them.
I got multiple guys for multiple topics.
Exactly. Thank you for proving my point.
The problem is we already know the radius of the Earth. So that...
Yeah, no.
But maybe some sorcerer placed a spill in the atmosphere. We never know. Some sorcerer could have placed a spill in the atmosphere, and it could be some magic that's occurring. So we can never know anything for certain.
It's not magic. Things magnification. We know that magnification is a real thing, or is that magical in your world?
No, you don't.
It happened within limits.
We also know the atmosphere is not magnifying it. I mean, so
yeah. And
don't know that.
Are these effects unlimited, or do we know that they have limits?
The magnification?
Any optical effect?
I don't know. You know what? We'll know when we draw that straight line. To
really, you don't know. You honestly don't know. You think there are no limits?
We'll know when we draw the straight line to the object.
Well, do you think
where it appears
currently
optically.
think that that's possible? That there are no limits to these optical effects, and why would you think that?
I don't know what the limits. If there is limits, if there's not limits, I do know that if we did draw a straight line to something, we would see. Oh, look, it's actually below or above.
If there weren't limits, then we would expect there to be evidence that there weren't limits, right?
I'm curious as how.
Sure, whatever. I don't know. It's not. I'm not making a claim about what's going on. I'm just saying what you say is going on is not proven.
Well, I think what you're saying is, if this result can be varied in any way at all, there can never be any result. All results must be ignored because it can be varied slightly. And I think that's absurd, unreasonable, ridiculous. And again, it's just another tactic to ignore facts about reality. No. It's to pretend they aren't facts. But every time we measure this, it isn't almost the same. It could be anything at all. When every single time we've measured it, it's within a range of things, but we'll pretend that that's not true and say that it might not be within a range of that within that range on this next time we measure it. It just could be anything.
Okay, and to respond to what you said.
You're going to pretend that that's a reasonable position.
To respond to what you said at the beginning, honestly, I didn't listen to anything you said after the first 5 seconds because I had something to say to the ridiculous thing you said about us not being able to verify it. We do have a way to verify it. You draw a straight line to the thing, and then we'll know it'll be verified by our straight line that, look.
You've already said that, and I've already responded to it twice, so there really wasn't much point in saying it again. However, I will say again,
we don't have a way to verify it.
Well, what you're saying is that because there's a way that this result can be varied slightly, then we have to ignore it completely. We can no longer take these sorts of measurements. There is only one measurement that can be taken. This is the measurement that has been decided upon by Jeremy. This is the only way to derive any knowledge about this at all. Because if we take measurements over and over again, and those measurements always fall within a certain range, we should totally ignore the measurements and pretend that the measurements are completely useless and the result could be absolutely anything and might not fall within that range that it is every time we measure it. That is what you are saying, and that is ridiculous.
No, I was just saying that there could be some underlying effects going on that you guys aren't taking into account.
And as a consequence of that, all the results should be ignored. Right? I know what you were saying. I just told you what you were saying. But you're only telling me half of it and then pretending that's the whole thing. You're saying that as a result of that, the results that come from this method of measurement must be ignored.
Yes,
right?
Because there's the optics. Right. Optics are in contention. So therefore, we're not going to use optics to verify if things are above or below where you guys are saying they are. We're going to have to figure out another method since the optics are in contention.
Okay, so again, as I stated, hold on. Just let's clarify that. What you're saying is that if we take measurements, and those measurements always, without fail, fall within a certain range, but are not always exactly the same, those measurements have to be completely ignored, and we must pretend that they do not always fall within that range, and they may sometime fall out of it. There is good reason to think that they may have fallen outside of that range the next time we take a measurement. That's your idiotic position.
No, position, that was a straw man.
So what's wrong? So how is that straw man?
My position is...
Which bit of that do you not agree with?
My position is that optics are in contention.
Yes.
And you can't use optics to prove the way optics is working.
So all results...
Slow down, bro.
So which results can we not ignore then? Now, which results can we not ignore? If all results don't have to be ignored,
man, it's a huge headache even dealing with you guys. I don't know why I came back. You're out of control, Jen.
I didn't use optics to figure out what optics did when I put the atmosphere into rectangles and used Snell's law to calculate that light bend down. I didn't use optics to figure out that light bends downwards. So
right, okay, it's like you guys aren't listening to what I'm saying. So
I am. I've repeated absolutely what you've said. You think that because the results vary slightly, they have to be ignored completely, right?
They don't prove. It doesn't prove anything. It doesn't validate anything or verify it at all.
Do you agree with this statement? Do you agree with these two statements? The results vary slightly, so consequently, they must be ignored completely. Do you agree with that?
Because they vary slightly? No, I don't agree with that.
Okay, so what is the reason they must be ignored completely?
They must be ignored completely because the optics are in effect. We have light bending. Is it bending down? Is it bending up? You know, you guys say it's working this
because
way.
They vary.
You say there's no... Jem, man, come on, bro.
But you're just saying because they vary in different words and saying, no, I'm not saying it's because they vary. It's because of these other things that all mean because they vary.
He left.
Bravely went away.
Fucking lying cunt.